Today is going to be a little bit different in that today we are introducing 2 new regular contributors to the channel. Now I've not posted a whole lot over the last month, and this is why. We have got Barney. Oh my gosh, Barney, kids named the dog, and he is a bundle of trouble and love, all in the same package. And my very good friend Trevor Jones, who has to be one of the top sports psychs in golf easily. And today we're going to go through 5 of the biggest challenges, psychological challenges that face every golfer, regardless of skill level. Let's get started. So I first met Trevor about seven or so years ago, and very brief history there. I have been studying and working in sports psychology for, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and I really felt, I don't know, 15 years ago that what I was working with, the information I was working with, was absolute hocus pocus. It was just letting me down, it was letting my students down. And I know Trevor, who is a PGA professional and an amazing player in his own right, in his playing career, felt a similar kind of struggle with what was mainstream sports psychology.
Yeah, I had that exact experience, thank you, Noel. Standing on the final tee of the Welsh National Championship with a 2-shot lead and having a thought appear like, don't shank it.
I know that thought.
Like 500 people watching around the green, and traditional sports psychology is really about kind of, if we can get the right thoughts, if we can get the right feelings, if we can kind of get into this like optimal zone of performance, then we can access our best stuff. The problem is I'm on the clock. I can't wait around
time
for this,
to play to play whack-a-mole with your swing thoughts and mental, yeah.
So I then, in that moment, with the championship on the line, had to step up and hit a shot just with my mind absolutely screaming at me, and I flushed it. And I won the championship, and I kind of drove away from that in 2008, just really quite confused, because everything I knew about sports psych up until that point told me that that shouldn't happen, and yet it did. Yeah. So I kind of went down this other journey in terms of finding some stuff that actually had a little bit more evidence behind it.
So the good news is sports psychology has moved on, and your mainstream psychology and therapy has moved on, I mean, just hugely in the last sort of 15 years. And in that journey of sort of seeking out better information, better research, that is how Trevor and I met. And we've kind of spoken every week for the last sort of 7 years, and you work a lot with my clients, especially around the yips, but I mean in all kinds of levels of performance psychology. So let's get going then with with our top 5 psychology challenges, straight in there with your number 1. What would your number 1 challenge be, would you say?
First tee nerves.
First tee nerves.
So as long as there's been a first tee, there have been first tee nerves.
Yeah.
Right? So this is as old as time, this issue. Now, I think it's an important question to ask, like, why do we even get nervous in the first place? We're doing something we love, and we've got kind of the target out in front of us. Like, why would we experience that discomfort and that nervousness? And if we look at this from a historical perspective, kind of way back when, we were hunter-gatherers, but we weren't top of the food chain. Yeah, we were predator and we were prey. So when we get into these situations where there's some kind of trophy, there's some kind of thing that we're aiming for out in front of us, our ancestors are the ones that kept an eye out, eyes in the back of the head kind of type deal. So the ones who are just supremely confident, completely focused on the task at hand, unwavering attention, they were the ones that got mauled from behind. So particularly as we get the bigger the trophy, the more consciousness we get of rustling in the bushes and everything else. So just walking into these situations with an appreciation of, doing things like this, that nervousness, that anxiousness, that, we can see that as the price of entry. Yeah, this isn't anything abnormal. I'd say this is entirely normal.
And we see that with throughout Tiger's career. I mean, he was, in the context of how amazing he was, awful off the first tee. You'd often see him just spray it all over the place, wouldn't you? In seemingly not, again in context, not big events.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the big thing. Everybody is feeling it, and the ones who are trying to push it away and pretend it's not there, what would you say is happening there?
Well, the issue then becomes is, evolutionary speaking, these kind of threats that can be in this outside world, when we try and control our thoughts and feelings, we can actually start to produce inner threats. And this actually puts us more and more into our heads. So this little distinction that I like to do with clients is actually just get them to hold a club And just on like a sliding scale, if this is being more in your head and this is being kind of more in your game, start to track where your attention is. Because often
Right,
when people
okay.
are playing these kind of tee shots, actually they're way up this end. So they're very, very kind of conscious of, you know, how they'll feel if they miss, what other people will think. And our job is to start to kind of ground ourselves and then start to shift back to the things that actually help them hit proper golf shots.
And the interesting thing there that's just sort of sprung to mind is if I'm playing old school psychology and I'm trying to, where's the dog? I'm trying to pretend that I am strong and I don't feel nervousness. I'm over there, aren't I? I'm
Absolutely.
playing games in my head. I'm so far, I'm so disconnected from actually the task at hand. Yeah, it's put me at that end.
So traditional kind of approaches or even pop psychology approaches to this actually have you kind of playing more of this end. So I say to clients when I first sit with them, you know, which would you rather, a game in your head or your head in the game?
And number two is over control. And this is where, you know, we see our movements become guided and steery. And of course it happens as the stakes get higher and higher, maybe the fairways get tighter, or there's more riding on the situation. We go from these wonderfully coordinated fluid motions into basically constraining the action. So we have less fluency, less degrees of freedom, if you like. The whole thing becomes kind of stiff and steery. And of course we see that with tee shots, you know, tight, steery tee shots. We see it with short game a lot. I mean, there is nothing worse in the short game than a motion which is slow and steery and just being overly careful. And that is all around over control. And of course we want control. But you know, it is very much a paradox. Hence the saying, to gain control, give up control. The higher the stakes, the more bold and almost cavalier our movement needs to be in order to kind of counter that almost universal desire to kind of, you know, gain extra control, just to make sure that we get the movement right. But making sure becomes grasping. You know, it's not a place of confidence. So one great way to kind of work through this is our flow drill that I'll link down below. We did a whole video on it, I think last year. One of the best drills to really feel fluency and get some athleticism back in your game. So you would stand behind the ball, get your grip right, you would walk in, plant your feet and hit it in one fluid motion. And of course, intuitively, you know, that whole motion would feel way out of control and crazy, particularly as you have no time to go through your list of swing thoughts, etc. But you'll probably find it's actually quite a liberating experience and the ball goes surprisingly straight. So over control, that need to, under pressure, really get things right, really kind of make sure you're going through the right steps, will lead you to completely break down what is a complex, fluid, well-sequenced motion.
So number three would be when we have a fantastic score going and we just trip up over ourselves and mess it up and kind of stall it to the clubhouse. So let's just say, for instance, we're on the 15th hole, you're well under par or under handicap, and my invitation to you would be just to start noticing, like, where's your mind? Where's your mind right now?
So yeah, I mean, obviously lots of to-do things I've got to do, but absolutely it would be all about very, very conscious of the score and not messing it up. I mean, I've got a good thing going, I don't want to mess it up.
Okay, so you kind of got this sense of, you ever had this experience of your feet are on the 15th hole, but your mind's already in the clubhouse trying to sign the scorecard? So
sometimes the mind says, it might be a conversation I might have, oh, what did you shoot? And you're sort of already telling a story in your mind of what you did on the 12th and I don't know, whatever your score.
So what we know, like from the neuroscience of attention, is when we have this kind of multitasking, so your body's here trying to hit the golf shot, your mind's already trying to sign the scorecard in the clubhouse, we're in big trouble. You know, right. That's why, like, I don't know if you knew this about me, but I'm a world-class texter. You know, I can just brr, zoom, like I'm a fantastic texter. And I'm also a really safe driver. Like I can drive a car and observe the highway code and everything else. I do the two together, I'm in big trouble.
Right, yeah. I mean,
okay, so that multitasking is a huge issue. I'd say would be the #1 issue in terms of you know, us falling over ourselves, kind of tripping up, kind of coming in.
And they say, don't they, in attention, there is no multitasking. It's just switching between two tasks
100%.
concurrently. And you're saying if your mind is already telling stories about in the future, and you're here, you are just darting in and out, effectively.
And I'd also say, welcome to the human race.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So
all these things, these top 5 are universal, aren't they?
Because this is a completely normal, natural thing to do, but what can we do about it? Well, the metaphor I like to use with clients is, what if recalling attention was a bit like recalling a dog?
Right.
So we want to kind of train that relationship with our attention to bring it back to where we are in kind of time and space on the 15th hole in the score we have. So if you'd just like to show your glove to the camera, this is a tool that I've been using with clients. It's called the timeline. So we've got a double-headed arrow. You can see that. So the future's off this way, the past is that way, and there's an X right in the middle. And again, a little bit like using your index finger kind of to track where you are, I just invite you to notice, if we were on this hole with this score going, just kind of noticing the mind being kind of off in the future. And then what we're going to do, similar to recalling a dog, come! Yeah, he's not coming.
I give him a chance. He's 4 months old. Come on,
there we go.
Give him a chance. Just like on the golf course, my mind's not going to come straight back.
Absolutely. So this is a process of training slowly but surely. That's it. There we go.
Good boy.
And a little bit of a reward as well for coming back.
Like your mind, it needs a little bit of training.
So a very simple way that we can just bring our attention back to the here and now of hitting this shot is just to very simply wriggle your toes on your left foot.
Okay.
And then let them rest. Wriggle your toes on your right foot, and then let them rest. And just notice where your attention is right now.
Right.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we're stepping forward. So we've got our attention back here. Now we can step forward in terms of, what is this shot asking of me?
Right. Okay. And I suppose all of this is also resting on being aware that your mind is wandering.
100%.
And that is a huge, we call that metacognition, don't we? And that's a huge mindfulness skill. If you are interested in building mindfulness skills, I've got a free course I'll link below where you can do a month's course and really start to understand mindfulness, some really simple and effective techniques to build attention, concentration, perspective building, some really cool stuff.
And mindfulness always begins with awareness.
Absolutely.
First and foremost. So we're just getting aware of, if you're not aware that your puppy is kind of way out where, and you're trying to hit this golf shot and then kind of top it into the bunker and make a double. I mean, how many times have we done that, right?
Yeah.
Every golfer on the planet.
So I love that metaphor. And you use it quite a lot, don't you? Keep your mind on a leash is one of your sort of favourite metaphors. Is your mind wandering away from you? What am I going to say to so-and-so because I'm playing badly or because I'm playing well, protecting a score? Can you bring your mind back to the present moment?
And the little ditty that I've come up with for clients regarding to this, and had players, on some very high caliber tours using this expression, is when your focus goes, you can wiggle your toes.
Oh, now I'm in trouble.
Okay. And if we just press pause there for a second, like how many times would you or myself or other people kind of walk up to that next one in a fit of frustration, kind of still hung up on this, and then thin the next one kind of over the back of the green, or duff the next one into the bunker, or chip it on in 3-putt? How many times do you reckon that can happen?
We see that all the time, don't we? That is a common theme.
So this kind of, particularly when we have the sense of kind of competence here, and then we just completely, fudge it up, that kind of frustration and that error kind of sticking on us can really compound. Those mistakes can kind of compound going forward. So we're turning a bogey into a double or a triple very quickly. So a really cool metaphor with this, and what I have clients do when I do in-person stuff, is from here, what I'd like you to do is to actually now, to have a sense of that, hanging on to this mistake, is I actually now want you to walk backwards to the next shot.
Right.
Just let's have a go and see what that's like.
Okay, right, all right. You're not going to have me walk in the bunker, are you?
No.
Okay.
But just notice what this is like, is as a reflection of still being hung up on this space.
Yeah, that I don't know how that will come across to our viewers here, but as an experience, I mean, that feels really, really close to walking up to the green, still berating myself about this and what could have been and what should have been.
And what's it like now? If you just pause,
yeah,
and just notice a couple of things that you can hear.
Okay,
And
breeze.
then as you do that, allow yourself to turn 180.
Okay, I can hear the breeze. I can hear a mower in the distance. Sense of, well, sense of calmness has.
So my question to you would be, which one of those approaches do you feel serves you best in terms of that next shot?
Oh, absolutely. Connecting to the surroundings, and I suppose what would be the present moment, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And that forward-facing approach, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so 15 foot for birdie. This would get me back to level. Oh, okay. Not to worry. Oh my gosh. That drives me nuts. 3-putt from nowhere. 3-putt from nowhere. That is a big skill, isn't it? I mean, I am fuming walking to the next tee.
So how many times, do we have that occur in the, over the space of a season or even a weekend? Even around, we can have that happen multiple times.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. And some people more than others. Some people would have it sort of bubble on underneath. Some people would blow, wouldn't they?
100%.
But most of us would carry it in some way.
Yeah.
Carry it on in some way.
Yeah. And the kind of the hangover from that frustration and that anger really, carries a cost to it. On your decision making going forward, and in the rest of the round. So, in terms of like what we'd do with that if I was working with you as a client, is just to start to even notice the kind of the judgments and the criticisms that are showing up, which for instance would be something like,
yeah, you idiot, and expletives, and
yeah, there's a few bit of effing and jeffing,
yeah,
either out loud or
absolutely
in your head.
Yeah.
So the first thing that we want to do is actually just kind of recognize that stuff showing up, and a fun little thing to do with that is give that stuff a name. Right, so with one of my chaps who plays at a very, very elite level, his mind gives him all kinds of criticism about any even small mistakes. Right, missing a 20-foot eagle putt, or as you said, just three putting out of nowhere. Very harsh on him, very self-critical. Even tiny mistakes are picked up on, and I was like, is there anyone else? Have you got any other relationships, or have you kind of seen that in any other people before? And he was like, oh my God, it's my mother-in-law.
Right, okay, yeah.
So he ended up, when he kind of notices this stream of kind of self-criticism, because, did you try and miss any of those putts on purpose?
No, of course not.
No, of course not, right? But when this judgment and this criticism and this kind of wagging finger kind of shows up, just being able to name that something kind of playful and something memorable.
Right, okay.
The mother-in-law's, showed up, great. It just gives you a little bit of space from the experience of that, which then can free us up to be more effective going forward.
And so we're not saying just brush it off and focus on the next thing, because that's a bit unrealistic, isn't it?
Correct.
I mean, it's not all kind of fluffy here. It is.
We want to acknowledge it.
We're acknowledging it and recognizing it as overly critical, and most importantly, and a word you use a lot, is not particularly workable.
Correct.
So
Correct.
Even if it is completely justified, I mean, 3-putting from there, not that workable, not that useful.
I mean, it's like getting into an argument with the mother-in-law, like for real.
Not very useful or workable.
I mean,
or winnable.
Certainly not on the next tee when you're trying to hit a tee shot.
Right.
And you've got this back and forth in your head kind of going on. So just being able to kind of notice it and name it, something fun, something playful,
gives us that space, and
then we can
carry on.
Then we can do our stuff.
Trevor, that was brilliant. That was a whistle-top tour of five of our biggest challenges, and we've literally just kind of touched the sides. We have just described the scenery really, and if and in our coming series, we're going to get into a lot more depth in these and give you some amazingly useful interventions. But at least from this video, you will be playing the right game, because I think old school psychology just takes us on just in the wrong direction entirely. At least now we know the game that we're playing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And if you want to get hold of you, Trevor, you'll be linked down below.
Fantastic. So at Mind You Golf, and also the Aware Performance Group is an American psychology performance group that I work for as well. So they're also good to look at.
Fantastic. And we look forward to seeing you much more on the channel.
Fantastic. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you.